أليكس خوري، أهلا وسهلا فيك بحلقة جديدة من طرب عرب. شكرا لاستقبالك إلي عندك اليوم. حضرتك مهندس صوت وميديا تكنولوجيست مثل ما بتحب تسميها، وصاحب الانيشيتيف وشركة بي سي ستوديوز اللي حتكون موضوع كتير كبير من حديثنا اليوم، وبركي نبلش فيها. بي سي ستوديوز هي شركة انت بتسميها سوشيال انتربرايز، بتشمل كذا اكتيفيتي، من الجرافيك للفيجوال للستوديو الرائع اللي عندك هون للتسجيل. واللي بيلفت بكل هالخبرية انه انت مندفع دائما لانك ترجع تعطي للمجتمع، وهنس سوشيال انتربرايز. فشو الفرق بين سوشيال انتربرايز و NGO؟
Thank you, Nadim, for the great introduction. نحن an NGO, basically it's a non-governmental organization that gathers donations and funds and reinvests them in order to help and open doors. نحن what we try to do is the exact same thing, but in sort of, if I dare say, a mightier way, where basically instead of relying on donations and funds, we rely on our own profit in order to reach certain positions in the market where we can have the greatest social impact. اليوم مع الكابيتاليزم عندك شركات فيك تقول technically they are more powerful than governments.
صحيح.
So there is no denying that businesses have a huge impact on our lifestyle, on our health, on our economies, and this is why we believe a lot in social enterprises. لأنه as a social enterprise we can develop the power and the position to give back to the community. نحن كBC Studios, all of our profits are reinvested into the market, so we don't verse any dividends, and this gives us the scalability to be able to diversify and invest in new technologies and grow in a way that's unique to our industry and our emerging, fast evolving landscape.
عبارة لفتتني اللي هي social impact. شو بالنسبة لك بيمثل social impact بشركة مثل شركتك؟
So نحن we try to develop our goals and initiatives through two big headers. أول واحد it's empowering independent artists, and the second one is our medium, which is media technology. Today, technologies are converging. Media is ever more involved in all sorts of different industries and products. And it's not anymore a case of being in the music industry or being in the film industry or being in the game industry. Whereas today, these specific industry, they're part of the greater media and entertainment sector. This is why we have a vision of a 21st century artist, that he's his own artist, but he's also his own technician and his own businessman. This vision is driven by the fact that today, with emerging technologies, these aspects, from the way you package your art to the way you produce your content, has that big an effect on the final result, on the final outcome, has equal effect than your art.
your craft. يعني اليوم انت عندك نموذج معين عن الارتست اللي بتحب تدعمه. استعملت كلمة empowerment، هيدي كلمة بيستعملوها كتير عالم. هل بتعني هي شيء بالضبط أو هيك is it like a fancy word?
So in practice we focus on what it means to be an artist in the 21st century.
شو يعني an artist in the 21st century?
An artist in the 21st century, he should be definitely his own painter, musician, sculptor, poet, but he should equally be his own businessman and his own technician. If he lacks skills in any of the three, he's gonna have to compromise basically.
وانتو بتساعدون بهودي الاشياء؟
نحن exactly, this is what we do. Traditionally, companies basically they offer services, they offer products. بدي غنية، بدي فيديو كليب، بدي دعاية. نحن rather what we focus on is and this answers empowering independent artists by نغير شوي الفورمولا، يعني نمحي كونسبت السر المصلحة ونرجع على an approach where the artist, instead of investing in a product, in a song, in a service, he's rather investing in himself. So مشان هيك أنا I stress on this point. أنا بيهمني if I want to work with an artist that even if he's just a singer and he doesn't care from an engineering standpoint شو عم نعمل بالستوديو، بيهمني على إلي يكون موجود، يكون قاعد حدا يشوف شو عم بعمل، هالكبسة قد أخذت وقت، شو الصعب شو الهين، شو بيلبق صوته، شو all these parameters, rather than putting all this knowledge into the product, rather than raising awareness and helping the artist sustain himself as an independent by learning a bit about everything and being empowered by, at least from a managerial point of view, you know, يعرف كيف ياخد all the decisions، يعرف كيف عليه be involved in the budgeting and all the details related to the branding, to the development of all the media peripherals, the campaign, up to a certain point where he would feel empowered by his
يعني انت مش جاي تستلمه للارتست مثل مثلا ريكورد ليبل او شيء، انت جاي مثل كأنه بتقدم له السيرفيس بس بتعطيه tools كرمال تيكمل لحاله او كيف؟
There's different formulas basically, and it's part of our unique selling point that we don't have sort of a list of services that we're specifically trying to sell. مش جاي بيع شيء specifically like clients, as much as we try to fill the gaps. And if you have an artist that's very comfortable producing at home, composing at home, ما رح اجي اقول له يلا دغري تعال سجل بالستوديو. This is not the goal. The goal is to be able to see what he's missing in order to reach the point where he could successfully, you know, legitimately develop his career and consider himself a professional artist in the industry.
هلا نحن ما بدنا ننسى انه بي سي ستوديوز هي شركة، وهل برأيك بيحضر يحصل تضارب مصالح conflict بين social responsibility the goal of attaining or achieving gain and profit?
Absolutely. مشان هيك this is why we've pronounced our company as a social enterprise from day one, rather than being interested in CSR, social responsibility as a whole. The difference is that not just our profits are reinvested, rather than we prioritize social responsibility over profit. And this is very important because it changes the whole structure of how you do your services. Right? Usually you go on a website and you see a price list for different services, or if it's more specialized services, then you do a meeting, you give a brief, and then you get a price accordingly. Our approach is very different. أول شيء نحن ما بنشتغل هيك مع مين ما كان, as much as I'd like to really get to know the people I work with. يعني إذا بدي أقول على التليفون بيقولوا لي قد إيه حق الاستوديو إذا بدي سجل فيه. The first thing I usually, this happens a lot, is I بجرب to inquire about the person, إنه بس قبل ما نحكي عن هالشيء إنه خبرني أنت شو بتعمل, لأنه basically إذا حدا بيسألني قد إيه رح يكلف تسجل عندك, رح أعطيه a specific price. Rather, if I know more about the person, then I can give better advice and optimize my services to make sure that he will get the best investment and the best return on his investment. كتير I've had examples of people coming asking for a recording session and me not turning them away, but sort of hinting at the fact that it might not be the best use of the budget at the moment. Also from a social perspective, you know, lots of people want to be associated with studios and want to produce content, and it would be in my interest إني أعزمهم وأعمل recording sessions معهم. بس on the contrary, what I do is بشجعهم, بشوف بروح لعندهم, بشوف الاستوديو تبعهم, بشوف where they are at, what they need in terms of equipment they use, their style. I give free consultations, everything needed in order to make sure that as an artist, when you get to the studio, you know, you are ready.
أرجع على فكرة ال 21st century artist. اليوم شو بيفرق الشيء اللي لازم يعمله فنان لا يقدر يصير مثل ما بتسميه انت بروفيشنال، لا يفوت بميدان ميدان العمل من ما اللي كان مطلوب منه هو من 40 سنة أو 30 سنة.
You know, as mainstream practice, there are certain formulas from radio appearance to PR to all these things that we consider, but it's not our main focus. The way we usually promote our brand, and our unique values is through alternative media. So the whole focus is on finding new ways to differentiate yourself. With all the emergent technologies, usually there are formulas that artists adopt in order to reach their goals in the industry. What we try to do as BC Studios is to show that مع كل ال convergence of media, مع new forms of expression, creative expression, there are so many new ways and new opportunities for diversification. So packaging art in different ways, it's our goal.
خلينا نعطي مثل كونكريت للمشاهد والمستمع. مثلا انه انا جيت اليوم بحب اعمل ديب هاوس ميوزك، اوكي، بالبيت ركبت الغنية تبعي وعم جرب فوتها على الماركت، عم كبها على سبوتيفاي، عم كبها على ساوند كلاود، عم كبها على باند كامب، عم كبها على كل هالمحلات، بس ما عم بيجيني لا ليسنرز ولا شيء. إذا أنا رحت لعندك أنت شو حتقلي؟ شو حتنصحني؟
There's no one solution for success. This is why we're very excited when we work with new talent to really see what drives that person, what differentiates him, what makes him unique. And based on that, we try to come up and propose new and exciting ways to promote them. It's definitely one way to go the standard route and to sort of produce an album or a hit single, put it online, distribute it, and it could be something entirely different to experiment with alternative media. So at BC Studios, we are usually excited about the potential of merging medias together. Sound is sort of my expertise. I did studies in music technology, and at core I'm a sound engineer. So it's surprising and even shocking for me to realize that even for somebody like me, when when somebody introduces me to a new composition or a new song and I get the opportunity to listen to it, it's not as engaging as watching a video or a movie or different. So sound today with the basically
ما بكفي
مع يعني السوشيال ميديا وكل شيء, you know, fast paced
click. انت عم تعدم you're condemning to death all sound activities. يعني.
I love that you asked this question, and it's very important because it's true that today the more we're converging media together, the more we feel we're losing the sense of authenticity and the actual experience, you know, of the listening experience. But rather today, with all the potential, there are so many ways where we can bring back our attention to sound using different stimuli. So art installations is a very interesting way of doing just that. One of our specialties at BC Studios is to experiment with interactive and immersive art. So everything related to sensors, data, motion. Imagine walking in a room, بتدق بالحيط بيتغير لونه حسب دعسة الإجر. معقول الميلودي would evolve, maybe based on how many people are in a room. Maybe the song or the composition could intensify itself. And all of these tools are there for artists to experiment with in order to augment the dimensions and the experiences that they're trying to share.
بس يعني إذا واحد أخذ a contemporary music artist وإجا لعندك حدا مثل مثلنا الأول a rapper or a deep house producer، إجا لعندك وقال لك أنا يا خيي إلي 5 سنين عم بشتغل على موسيقتي، كل يوم بقعد عليها، كل يوم بشتغل. I produce regularly، بكب على السوق، بيجيني 13 listens بالشهر على شو اسمه، على سبوتيفاي. انت اليوم اذا غيرت له هالباكجينج تبع على سبوتيفاي، هني شو بيشوفوا؟ يعني هيسمعوا بس مثلا. او انت بقى متآمن بهودي البلاتفورمز، شو البديل اللي عم تطرح له اياه؟ لانه لحد هلا انا معك بكل هالامور، وانا كمان كتير فكرت بفكرة الاكتيفيشن تبع الاتنشن من خلال other stimuli. another argument معقول يكون انه هودي stimuli حياخدوا من درب الشيء الاصلي،
مظبوط.
the initial activity. فشو جوابك على هودي الاسئله؟
Basically اليوم قد ما صرنا in a single market with the power of the internet, with the power of digital streaming platforms, there's so much digital pollution, so much competition that it's really hard to differentiate yourself. This is why definitely Spotify and all the different platforms, they are interesting, but at the end of the day you're just adopting that model. Whereas today with new medias and alternative art, there is so much room for expression. Yani we would take an installation, a physical installation that is placed in a room. It could be very different from an online experience, an app, a website. There are so many ways in which you could experience and package and deliver your product.
بس هذا بده يكون باللايف ضروري.
In what sense?
يعني اليوم مش كل الارتستس، يعني الارتست صار فيك تلاقي انت 50 per 1000 individuals بيكون اسمه ارتست، الباقي شو عرفني حكيم سنين وهذا. بس اليوم مش كلهم عندهم access على the live performance، على الستيج، على الفينيوز اللي بتسمح لهم انه هن يقدروا يعملوا هال immersive activities. يعني احنا اليوم نطلع خد السين المحلية بلبنان، ومنا المرجع هي بس انه بيغني بقلب بار، بيغني بقلب باب معه هالباند تبعه. it's a regular showcasing. انت اللي عم تحكي عنه كأنه بيطلب funds، بيطلب اشياء، بيطلب مدخرات الارتست العادي ما معه اياها.
Absolutely. بتعرف, you're actually pointing out one of the biggest inequalities in the that's arising with new technologies, and which makes it quite inaccessible. And this is why we've set up our initiative. This is why as BC Studios we're here in order to try to address those inequalities and to make those opportunities more accessible. Absolutely. Because yes, today it is much harder to say I want to create an immersive installation that's going to be placed in a room where people are going to walk by and get this experience. Whereas eventually the goal would be that you would see the concept of record production, going to a studio, getting a band, performing that record, recording it, mixing it, mastering it. If it's not enough to do a single, to do an EP or to do an album, then after about 6 months to a year of production, distributing it, marketing it, it's a big commitment. I'm تحكي, in order to succeed as an artist, we're talking about a 2-3 year journey that if everything goes great, it would mark just the beginning of طلعته. So this is why I really believe that along the lines of new technologies, it will facilitate and it will create new opportunities for artists to test or to experiment with their potential for a creative career much more easily. With social media اليوم فيك تجرب شغلة تنزلها توصل لمدري كم مليون views, and this could ignite a career. So experiment with alternative media can be as simple as doing programming, writing code, doing creative coding, something related to music, arts, visuals, but done in a way where without lots of funds or energy you could do something unique. You could do something that's not actually there done, and you could share it easily. Today, more and more record labels are mostly focused on the digital part, which is sort of distributing and publishing music to streaming platforms. And this is where specifically us as a company, we've identified sort of an inequality, which is the concept that a record label should take equity in your art. So usually a record label, since they are that involved in all the aspects of promoting your art, they should be partners, so they should have royalties. And back then, it was, since they were investing, they were putting all the money, and it was a huge endeavor, they would take the larger sum of the shares. So it would be very normal for a very famous and big star to take 20 to 30% of profits, and the label would take the rest. Now today things changed. Obviously the deals, there's so many variables that affect the royalty rates, but in general, labels, they focus more on digital distribution, and basically they still take a substantial rate, which is usually anywhere from 20 to 60 or 70%, in order to provide their services. It's huge. And this is where we've identified an inequality, and we've launched our label. So we have BC Records. BC Records is our own label, where we were able to break down barriers to distribution. Today, if you want to distribute online through a label, you will have to give up a big sum of your royalties. And what you get in return are basic services, pushing your content to different platforms, updating metadata, standardizing all the information across the different platforms, artist name, artwork, all the basic but very important stuff. What we were able to do is to offer the same services as a record label, but without taking those huge royalty cuts. Because
how can you afford it?
Because we usually, labels are labels. This is what they do. They base their whole sort of profit strategy on the royalty they get from digital plays. Whereas us, we recognize from day one that unless you're a huge star, you're not going to make a lot of money with digital streams. So it's a known fact. The payout for the royalty rate is very, very weak.
0.007 cents.
Exactly, and everything is rigged sort of against your favor. From the sorting algorithms to music discovery, sort of technology on the platforms, everything is sort of limited in a way where you feel that you're losing. So this is why we've adopted the point of view that let's use, distribution as a means of marketing rather than a source of profit.
شو قصدك بهذه العبارة؟
وقت اللي بتقدر تركز على digital distribution, your position in the market for to gain exposure rather than to make money from that, then فيك تركز على peripheral activities and base the traffic that you gain from online presence, and to monetize it in real life through gigs, through merchandise, through alternative media yet again.
مش هو هذا اللي بيصير بالعادة أو لا؟
Definitely, بس
you get noticed on the platforms and then you're مندق لك تعال عمول عنا gig.
ايه بس لا تقتنع من الأساس تفوت مع label. We launched BC Records, our label, around an initiative as so we launched BC Records, our label, around our artist sponsorship program. Basically, the goal was to maximize and help uncover new talent. you know, it's hard to kickstart your career as an independent artist. So for the ones that really deserve it, we've launched this program where rather than them investing in all the production needs for their launch, we would do it. So we would sponsor them. We would produce the album, do the media, do the marketing, do all sorts of things in order to maximize the potential of success for that artist. Now, this is very common to traditional record labels. Back in the days, they used to call it the 360 deal. And this is where the label becomes your partner. They would take the larger cut of the profit, 70 to 80%, but in return, they would literally fund the whole thing. So usually if you're an artist, قد ما يكون عندك talent, خلينا نقول انت مبين your success is guaranteed. I know that if I put you on stage in front of thousands of people, they will love you. But in order to reach this point, it's not easy. You would need a significant investment in time, energy, and resources. So definitely, the label's input was very important at the time. Now, today this has changed with the landscape. So what we're trying to do with BC Records is to bring back this sort of 360 deal to life, but on much better terms. Rather than being partners with the artist and taking a huge cut, this model doesn't work anymore in the 21st century. ليه؟ لأنه قبل كان يجي لهم 200-300 واحد بالسنة. They filter them with their A&R department and they come up with a short list. The short list of people they would invest in. إذا منهم طلع 10% طلعوا نجحوا, this would hedge the investment of the failed ones. But the formula was always, try to uncover new talent. هلا today, with all the higher standards of production, music video cost, marketing costs, everything you need in order to break through, it's not as easy as before. So big labels, they're minimizing their risks. And this is very important because the nisbet new talent, emergence of new talent is being reduced a lot, just because it's much easier today than to take a person, to choose an artist on, if you want, different factors, rather than choosing him based on his how good of an artist he is, his artistry, his style. They would choose artists based on adabiltism, a day he's reliable, a day from a media perspective he will sell, and the rest they will just manufacture. They will make a star out of him, and they would guarantee the success. So this whole thing, although it's great for sort of profit-seeking industries to be more efficient, to turn stars as fast as possible, this has a huge impact on the market, which is making the barriers of entry into the sort of the industry much higher and higher. So us as BC Records, we are able to basically, through the art sponsorship program, we've sort of formulated a way to invest and sponsor in artists, to do what they used to do as the 360 deal. But instead of taking a royalty cut or a high percentage, because we would, if I'm going to stop all my resources and put my whole team on producing an artist, then there's all of that, all that investment that I need to make back. So we formulated a way to be able, since we have the facilities, everything we would need in order to help the artist is sort of a reduced cost, because a label would invest the money and then send the artist to a recording studio, work with a media agency and give them the budget to promote and to do the video.
يعني انت حملت حالك الانيشال كوست بالاول طريق كرمال ما ترجع تحمله انت للارتست بعدين.
Exactly. And using this model صار فيي العبها ذكية أكتر. صار فيي اجي مع الارتست وانا اقدر من day one انه هيدا الارتست بدي اعطيه الماكسيموم chances لا ينجح. هلا راح ينجح ما راح ينجح, it's not going to be for me to determine. Instead of taking a percentage, this investment would act as a loan. I would advance this money, you know, or these services that are valued at X dollars, let's say, all right? بعدين out of his professional services, so نحن, since we have our foot in the industry, we have access to gigs, to venues, to potential events. So once we'll finish the production part and we'll start sort of introducing the artist to the market, then we will recoup our investment. We will set sort of a rate. بس الفرق بين us and a traditional record deal is that once المبلغ الأساسي اللي حطيناه رجع اندفع, the artist doesn't owe us anything, and he is in full control of his intellectual property, and he owns his content and royalties. So this is something that doesn't exist in music business history. It's a brand new concept, and it's not just something that, the difference between NGO and social enterprise. NGO would do that à fond perdu, comme AFAC et d'autres. Sorry to give examples.
Take examples.
نحن, we want to do it in a sustainable way. Whereas having done this investment in our facilities, we have the cameras, we have the mics, we have the consoles, we have everything needed basically. Then we can try many more artists, and instead of getting attached to one and two, اتكل عليهم ينجحوا وصير إذا غلط وعمل شيء بصير لا بدي أحميه وبدي كذب وعامله إنه he's an idol and a god just for him to succeed. No, I help as many people as possible, and I give this option to many people and maximize their chances to success. ومن أول نهار من day one بقول خي أنا إن شاء الله عامل $1,000,000 أو إن شاء الله ما عامل شيء، خي أنا كل هالتعب اللي عم بحطه بالارتيست قد ايه بالنسبة لإلي شو المبلغ اللي بدي ارجع رده تقول انه انا I made my investment back, and it's on this basis that we do the deal.
بس انت شو جابرك يعني تعمل هيك مشروع ما تفوت فيه على جيبتك مثل ما غير شركات معقولة يكون هو هذا البيزنس بلان تبعها الأصلي، انك to give back to the community؟ هيدي مثل انت هدف حطيته من اول الطريق وكأنه نابع هو من رغبة شخصية، ما فيش حدا جابرك.
اوف هذا سؤال شوي تقيل، بس لا اقدر جاوبه in the most honest way. لا اقدر جاوب على السؤال، بدي اقول لك شوي اكثر عني. Basically I did a master's in music technology at London College of Music، وهونيك تعلمت programming for sound sound engineering at its best, and I got exposed to all these opportunities. That's where I started to develop plugins, tools, and if you want
بس اللي ما بيعرف شو يعني plugin، شو يعني plugin؟
هن basically إذا بدك تنتج موسيقى على الكمبيوتر، في tools أدوات اللي بيستعملوهم لا يتحكموا بالصوت basically،
وانت بتصممهم هولي.
إنه السوفتويرات اللي هن بالماركت بدك أنت تشتغل على طريقتهم، كيف هن جايين بدك تتعلم وتستعملها. بس when you program for sound صار فيك تخترع your own way basically. And when you create tools that way, it changes in essence the way you create music. يعني تعرف بيقولوا كيف creativity is determined by your creative medium. So حسب الآلة تبعك إذا عم دق على الجيتار, the fact that it has strings and they are laid out in a certain way on the guitar, it's what will give the properties of sound of that instrument. وكل شيء اللي فيك تعمله playability is all the variables around that physical element which is your instrument. In the digital world, once you are empowered by programming, you can sort of create your own sort of different and new ways to manipulate sound. And it's very exciting in the 21st century لأنه نحن الناس الأكترية الناس اللي ما عم بيفهموها إنه now it's the most exciting time in music and media technology. Literally مين ما كان إذا بيتعلم شهر أو شهرين بس بيفهم شوية programming ويكون عنده باز كرياتيف artistique dans n'importe quel domaine, in any type of creative field, they can apply this knowledge to create something new. There is that much room. هالقد في مجال لقصص جديد. انا بالجامعه بتذكر هالشغله انا دائما بقولها لناس بيجوا لعندي وبجرب حمسهم على الميديا تكنولوجي وبيقولوا لي انه اوف انت بتحكي هيك وبتعرف انه you're like a genius, you're like an alien وهيك. انا اول شيء بعرفهم عني. انا I started at school, I was a very bad student. كان بدهم يشيلوني من مدرسه تركت مدرسه لما so that I don't
دوبل صف.
ايه وهيك يعني I didn't have this prestigious academic track. بس هنيك وقت تعرفت على when I did my studies, when I did my masters, and I discovered the world of programming for art in general, because it started through sound and now you know it spread across it gave me the keys to understand and interpret any type of media expression, creative expression. هنيك we got exposed to a new way. شو كلمة بدي أقول؟ نسيت شو كنت عم بخبر.
You were a bad student. وقت طلعت لبرا.
وكيف بحمس الناس اللي بيجوا لعندي. إيه so I was a bad student. شو
بس تحاسبك.
خلص بعدين. لا شو كلمة بدي أقول؟
You were a bad student.
So no, basically I always, this is a story I tell to people who come and to always they look at me and they're like, oh but you're like this alien, you know, and this is why you're good at these things, but how is this gonna help me? And I remind them that غير I didn't have this amazing academic track growing up, or I wasn't the brightest student. وقت تعرفت على those technologies, literally it took me about 2 to 3 months to be able to create something new. And that's the beauty of where we are at today. Whether you're an artist, whether you're a businessman, whether regardless of what your goals are, there's always an opportunity that you can have from learning creative coding.
Can you define what new is?
In what term?
When you say you create something new.
So let's say something novel, something that's when used from a consumer point of view will force you to or will help you express yourself differently. يعني like I said, the medium it's has a big effect on the outcome. So when you experiment with tools and instruments, then discovering new tools and new instruments can drastically change the way you create and the way you look at production.
بس أنت اليوم for example تحكي أنه بتعمل ديزاين ل plugins، لأدوات بتساعد البرودوسر لينتج صوت جديد على السوفت وير اللي هم عم بيستعملوا، اللي هن بلج ان، يعني كأنك انت عم تجيب شيء من برا وفي شيء عم تشكه بقلب الانجان اللي عم تشتغل عليه وبتزيد له انت هيدي فيتشر جديده. بس هيدي البلجن وقت تعملها انت كيف تعرف انه هيدي بلجن مش موجوده من على الماركت؟
الحلو أنا وقت اللي تخرجت من الجامعة وكنت عم ببني هذا المشروع، كان عندي وقت spare time on my hands, and I invested a lot of that into designing these plugins. And basically كنت فوت شوف بالسوق شو في موجود، و personally عصب يعني في شغلة بدي أعملها ما قادر أعملها، ودغري فكر بسولوشن انه ما فيك تعملها بهالطريقه او بهالطريقه، روح نبش شوف انه وين بدي الاقي هيك شيء وما لاقي. ايام ما كان في تشات جي بي تي وهيك اشياء، فكنت روح فتش فوت على قول
وين بتلاقيهم هول الاشياء.
فور اكزامبل للالكترونيك ميوزك برودكشن اكثريه الناس بيستعملوا سوفت وير اسمه ايبلتون، وايبلتون عاملينها بطريقه انه في شيء اسمه ماكس فور لايف ديفايسز، يعني ناس فيهم يخترعوا سوفت والسوفت وير دغري بفوت بأبلتون. انت بس تعمل له دراج اند دروب مجرد انه نزلته، وفيك تستعمله بالانفايرمنت اللي اوريدي انت مرتاح فيه وبتشتغل عليه. فهيدي فتحت مجال لكتير ناس يخترعوا بلوجينز ويخترعوا سوفتورات. واليوم فيك تفوت على ويب سايتس مثل maxforlife.com وتلاقي thousands and thousands of plugins كلهم مع جزء بدك تدفع حقهم، بس the largest part for free. And this is great, and it's a huge community, and lots of innovative ideas and tools are always there. So أنا كنت هيدا الشخص اللي ما كنت أشبع، وعندي أفكار، عندي شايف قصص ما كنت عم بلاقيهم. So it was very exciting for me to develop them. To tell you the truth, عم بحكيك يعني as far back as 2017 I had just graduated I had already يعني made my marks in programming. I had built my master thesis around multi-channel audio, the world of surround sound. تخلي تحس بالصوت عم بيهز حواليك، بس محل ما تستعمل بفورمات conventional like 5.1, 7.1 whole الاشياء. I created a system where I wrote my own panning algorithms, and I found unique ways to perform live with music in a surround sound multi-channel setting. So أكيد story for another day, but this inspired me a lot to do it professionally and to start producing high-end plugins. So basically
عليهم وحدة يعني البلugins على Max for Life.
ما عندك فكرة يعني. What's exciting, it's once I get an idea, خلاص I do it until I work on it until it really stands out. So back then I did that 6 times. We now have a library of plugins, and what I'm so excited, عم تسألني how do you know that they're novel, that they're new? And to answer your question, I really believe that the way I've designed those 5 plugins, the BC Plug series, hopefully soon there will be more and more. It's made in a way where it inspires people to express themselves creatively in a new way. So هالقد مقتنع of that instead of selling the plugins, I'm giving them all out for free and open source. So I've wrote the plugins in a way where if you click on that button and inspect the code behind the interface,
فيك تغيره للكود،
فيك تغيره للكود، فيك تتعلمه للكود، عمله بطريقة بشهيك تفوت وتقريه وتتعلم شوف كيف عملها وكيف كتبها وشوف فيك تعمل فيها. إذا أنت حابب هالفكرة بس بدك تطورها بغير طريقة، أعطيك كل المجال. So I did that in all of the plugins, and I'm very excited to share it with the community, because I know for a fact that once they start using it, that they will be adopting a new way of production, more focused on playability, live performance, better expression, and one by one each plugin is focusing on a completely specific field. BCARP, the first one we released, it's actually online now, everybody can get it. It's like a new way to create melodies. Forever we were stuck between either sort of recording live MIDI or audio, or sort of programming music on the MIDI scroll. The MIDI scroll هو بس تفتح على السوفتوير بيطلع لك مثل البيانو على الشمال واللاينز وتسيب تحط النوتات هيك. So it can be quite interesting, but it's also very limiting in its nature. So the BCARP is taking the concept of sequencers, but exploiting it in a way where it becomes sort of this ultimate melody making machine, where you can experiment with many melodies on the go and play with them. Even if you're not an experienced producer or musician, you can go with creating long and evolving melodies in a very fun and interesting way. That's BCARP. Our second plugin, which is going to be live very soon, It's a BC envelope. It's a way to redefine trigger-based automations, and it's a novelty. It's a novelty in and of itself. Okay, do you mind? Would you like to get a bit technical?
لا أكيد.
So basically,
يعرفوا هالشيء.
envelopes. This is this is an interesting topic that I often open with people who are interested in electronic music production. So basically, envelopes are tools that are used to let's say modulate the sound. An envelope by design or initially how they created it was because it was used because synthesizers, instruments that create and generate sound, basically they're always on. يعني الصوت اللي عم تسمعه هو عبارة عن موتور عم بيبرم وعم بيطلع صوت. كيف بتسمعه؟ through the envelope. Basically إذا ما بتكبس a note, the envelope is off. أول ما تكبس النوت الانفلوب رح تفتح. كيف بتفتح الانفلوب؟ يعني the properties of the envelope traditionally بيسمون attack, decay, release, sustain,
release,
ADSR. So basically these parameters, they will affect the shape of that envelope.
صح.
So a short attack means that the sound gets revealed very quickly. So it's not ramping up, it's like a percussive sound. It has a high transient. A long attack would be a long evolving sound like a pad that's rising. Anyway, we're not going to go into the specifics, but the idea is that the whole concept of an envelope is tailored around what we called the two-step event. So note on and note off. When you click on the note, you open the envelope, and when you take your finger off the note, then you close the envelope. And it's all linked around that sort of the keyboard that's sort of turning on the synthesizer and sort of creating the sound for you. So I took this concept and extrapolated it completely and used it as a fully programmable automation tool. So usually people, when they want to introduce automation, like continuous automations like LFOs, it's an effect that gets added onto any parameter you like. It can be assigned, and that effect is continuous. And we have so many different variations of continuous effects, but trigger-based effect, none really. The envelope is a type of trigger-based automation that is actually today used only for sort of linked to the keyboard when you turn the note on or off. Now this is the envelope of the amplitude that's linked to turning on and off the sound, but they have we in modern and expensive synthesizers, they had other types of envelopes, filter envelopes, but it's all based on the same concept. It's all triggered when you turn on the note and released when you turn off the note. So the BC envelope is the very first multi-channel fully programmable envelope. It's an envelope where instead of being linked to the keyboard, it's a triggered based. So you click on the button and you can, if you want, you can create automations on demand. You draw your curve, basically, and you assign it to a parameter. Just like in any DAW, you can write your automations inside the tracks. Instead of writing them inside the track, you write them on your plugin. And whenever you want, you can trigger them. So
بقلب البلجن تكتب الاوتوميشن.
سو الحلو انه ما في بس واحده، في 5 لايرز بتكبس بكبسه واحده بيمشوا 5 بس كل واحده assigning a different parameter.
طب برايك هذا شيء فيك تعلمه؟
absolutely عم تحكي using it or
تعلمه للعالم
developing it.
بقصدي توضح سؤالي او بالاحرى خليني ارجع اساله. هل برايك هذا شيء فيك تعلمه للعالم بطريقه تصنيعه؟ كيف واحد يصنع بلجن؟ لأنه إذا كل واحد صار يعرف يعمل البلجن اللي بده إياه بيصير يقدر يعمل الشغل اللي بده إياه ويتحرر من إنه يشتغل مع بروفيشنال.
Absolutely. This is هذا أكتر شيء أنا بتحمس عليه صراحة. And a huge part of BC Studios is our academic program. نحن we have set up an entire academic program dedicated at facilitating the sort of raising awareness about the potential of music and media technology as a valid and legitimate form of artistic expression. So artists are, I really believe that artists should at least be somewhat interested in that field and at least look at how it could help their own identity. We have courses focused on learning to develop software for music specifically, but also equally for all sorts of different technologies. We do programming for lights, so كل الروبويات والmoving heads والwashers وكل المكانات اللي بيستعملون theatrical and night clubs and stage lighting. We teach programming for that, and we also teach programming for we call that creative coding for visual arts, so 2D and 3D art using technologies such as OpenGL. And we also teach programming for projection mapping. And this is something very exciting for me, لأنه it doesn't really exist out there. It's something we're pioneering, and we're creating exciting ways to introducing the concept of plugins for projection mapping, which is something that doesn't exist in the market.
بس هذا الشيء عم بتدرجوا بلبنان، يعني عم بتعلموا بلبنان أو لا؟
Absolutely. We launched our VJ Academy in 2022.
شو VJ؟
VJing
تبع نخلط
حسب who asks the questions or who answers.
الموسيقي.
بالنسبة لنا بنحب concept ال VJ as an artist that
what does it stand for? Like VJ,
like DJ, disc jockey, عندك VJ
visual jockey,
for visual jockey.
Absolutely.
And essentially it was the guy who operates the screen. سكرينات بمحلات في content footage, you can mix them, you can add effects, merge them, so it's sort of a performative art. So this is why they called it the VJ. Light operation traditionally is something else, so the light operator on the consoles controlling the lights اللي حكينا عنهم, it's something else. نحن our vision of VJing is a unified in our VJ Academy we teach it through all the mediums. Our VJ learns how to express himself on screens, light fixtures, and projection mapping equally.
بس in terms of music and production وتعليم العالم كيف to navigate the world of music production, هذا الشيء أنتم بتهتموا فيه أو لا؟
So although we haven't launched our school yet in Lebanon, we've sort of paved the way with a bunch of workshops and programs and initiatives focused at introducing the concept of software development for music and interactive art. Yes. In parallel, we have our company set up in Romania, and where we have access to an EU fund for bridging the gap in education technology. And this is where we're really sort of developing our own proprietary courses on sort of software development for arts. And it's exciting for us because it's tackling this issue at the creative level, but also focusing on making it accessible to anybody, since we're teaching it in high schools for kids.
كده الشيء ممكن يفيد الشباب بالمدارس، يعني إنه يصير جزء من المنهاج أو صعب يصير جزء من المنهاج.
Absolutely. Today with the speed, the pace at which technology is growing, kids have to really sort of adapt to the new landscape, and they're doing it so well
خاصة
at a young age.
artistic level، لأنه المدارس ما بيهتموا بهذا الشيء.
But you know, when they're young kids, they soak up everything, you know. So it's very exciting to see today, you know, how adaptable they are to all these new opportunities, and when it's done in interesting way in a school setting, it can go a very long way.
أنا بختم بسؤال حول لبنان. أنت اليوم كان فيك تفتح هيدي السوشيال انتربرايز فيرتشوالي بركي وين ما كان بالعالم، ليش قررت ترجع تفتحها بلبنان؟
So it's an interesting question. To be honest, من بعد ما خلصت الماسترز تبعي وتعلمت كل شيء اللي تعلمته, in a way, I've had those like, moments of epiphany when, as I was developing software, creating sort of new stuff, تحمست كتير وشفت البوتنشال تبع what I could do. And when I touched that potential, صار I've had actually something tangible that I've created that actually is of worth. I realized that without, you know, the environment to share it with, without the people, the community, without the meaning, the purpose, for me at least, it was tasteless. So having obtained that at a young age relatively, you know, it's I consider myself lucky to أنا كتير صغير بعرف شو بدي وحطيت راسي بالشغلة. So وصلت بعدني مخرج من الجامعة أنجأ مخرج من الجامعة. I've had all these plans and ideas and products and prototypes and كل هيدا. I felt that, you know, all of that I wanted it to have a lot of meaning. For me, it's more than a career. It's not about my personal success anymore. It stopped being that a long time ago. Once I came to Lebanon, I came with an expertise. كنت كتير محمس. قديه بتشوفني هلا هون full of energy. Maybe before it was tenfold, and I had all this eagerness, all this you know, this جوع للشغل when it was met with lots of disappointment. You know, we're talking about sort of novel ideas, and today the market is not about that. It's about efficiency, it's about cutting costs. It's hard to find people who appreciate, you know, the aesthetic values, the technical values that we're promoting. So it was an interesting challenge, and it was also a comforting revelation to realize that my mission was in Lebanon, instead of selling my services and mounting my you know, my line of products or services, was rather to do something, you know, with a much greater purpose, something that can inspire and that can pave the way for a lot of excitement in the future.
Inspire those who work with you, or inspire the community?
You know,
and why Lebanon? شو هو هذا الشيء اللي بلبنان حسسك إنه بيستاهل؟
بيستاهل is a tough word, you know. إذا بدي أفكر هيك ما في شيء بيستاهل. This is why you know, we're forced, when we're faced with such big challenges, to realize that the point in life is to actualize your goals. So with just an idea, it was just that. But today we have much more, you know. We have a community. We've actually started something that I think it's going to be hard to turn off. And this is where I can sort of answer your question. I believe that it's contagious, you know. You start with something that starts out as your individual sort of goal and journey, but then quickly you start sharing this dream with people, and it becomes much greater. And this is where, you know, I really realized that I'm onto something. And this is why I also believed that it shouldn't be named after me or focused on me whatsoever. This is the first interview I do, and I do it in the name of promoting this ideal rather than promoting myself. And this is why I believe we're heading a long way.
أليكس، عم تعمل شغل كتير كتير حلو أنت والإكيب تبعك. أنا اليوم صار لي فرصة أتعرف على الفريق اللي بتشتغل معه، وحلو واحد يلاحظ قديش في محبة، قديش في cohesion بقلب هذا الجروب، وكأنه كلكم شايفين نفس الشيء، ما في حدا شايف شيء مختلف. أنا برأيي الشيء اللي عم تعملوه هون مع الوقت حيغير النظرة كليا ل الرغبة إنه واحد يصير فنان، حتشجعوا العالم يقدروا يعملوا فن أكتر. وأنا بشكرك على الشيء اللي عم تقدموه، وبشكرك شخصيا على الوقت اللي عطيتني اليوم لنصور هذه الحلقة، وعلى أمل اللقاء إن شاء الله.
Thank you so much, Habibi. Really, it's a great pleasure to take part of this precious program.